I'm going to cover how to read from a file in Java. There's at least a couple of different ways of doing this. I'm going to use sort of the original way or the older way with a buffered reader. I'll make a video on using a scanner later, but there's a few advantages of using buffered reader. Well, let's just go ahead and dive into this example. My goal is to read a single number from a file. So this file is called score.txt, and it's just a single number. So over here I've specified the file name, score.txt. Notice where it is in my IntelliJ directory. It's in sort of the root, not in the source folder. Now if I took this file name, this is called a relative path. That means it's looking for a file in the same directory as the code that's running. So in this, that means the project directory. Now if I did something like this, C colon, let's do backslash, this would be Windows, I could do, users, something like that. That would be an absolute path to that file, so we could specify files wherever in the file system, or we could do a relative path of directories like this. But for this example, we'll just keep the score file in our project directory. Now, if you notice up here, I've imported a few things. I know I'm going to need them. There's a few different exceptions and a couple different classes. So let's dive right in. So I've already covered exception handling. You can check out my other video for that. Exceptions are really made, or one of the main reasons to have them is for I/O settings. That means reading from a file, reading to and from network devices, etc. So I know I'm going to need try and catch. I'm going to just leave that here. First things first, I'm going to need a couple things. So I need something called a file reader. So I'll call this score file. And let me move this. I'll just move this. Let's see. Oh, no, I want it up here. Just kidding. So I'm just going to declare it up here. And I'm also going to put a buffered reader up here. I'm going to creatively name reader. Put those up there. So Java likes its syntax. It likes its thoroughness. So we have to use two classes to read from a file. Just the way it is. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to open the file. Then we're going to read the contents of the file. Then we will convert the string into an int. And well, that should be about it. So just open the file. We need to do score file. We'll just say new file reader. I'm going to give it the name here. So right away, you can see it's complaining. If I mouse over, it says I'm missing a file not found error. So I'll put that in here. So I can do file not found exception. It's okay to use single letters variables here. It's even pretty conventional too. So then I have to think, how do I want to handle this exception? For this scenario, let's say the score is not critical. It's just maybe like a high score from a previous game or something like that. I'm going to choose the default sort of strategy rather than prompting again or just quitting. So I'm going to set the score is equal to 0 up here. So all I'm going to do in this case, I'm just going to print out a nice message, and then we'll just continue on. So if I look down at the end of my code here, the whole goal is to print out the score here on what is now line 30. So that means in the case of an error, I'm going to print out a message. We're just going to continue on with the default value, which is 0, and then we'll just print that out. So I'll do printf and say was not found, and then I can just go file name. Oh, and don't forget the new line because it's printf. And again, system.error is where you should put error messages. System.out is where kind of standard output goes. All right, so then we've opened the file. Oh, there's one other thing we need to do, and that is we need to make our reader. So we have to do new buffered reader, and we have to go to the score file. And that's because buffered reader could be reading from many different types of sources, that different kinds of I/O, so files or network devices, or it could even read from strings. So it could simulate I/O that way, or it could be, you know, anything you can think of. It could be a web API, it could be whatever. So it just takes in a string, basically a sequence of characters. So, and it buffers them, so it kind of builds them up in the lines. Okay, so now let's read. I already have a variable called raw score. I'm going to put the contents into there. So I'm going to do reader. I'm going to read the line. So it's going to read the whole line and put it into that variable. Now it's complaining again. If I mouse over, it'll say something. Oh, need java.io exception. So I need to add another catch. So I'll add that here. I'll add this here again. I'll just use printf again and say error while reading. Oh, I want. There we go. I believe file not found exception is type of IO error, so it's important to list them in this order. So it's going to when an exception is thrown, it's going to try to match the first catch block. So it's going to start with this one on line 27, right here, and then move down 31. Whoops. You get the idea, and so on and so forth. So the last thing I need to do up here is convert the score into a number. So I'll do this. I'll do use integer. That was not the code completion I was looking for. Parse int and raw score. Fantastic. Now, if you notice, it's not complaining about parse int, but it will throw a number format exception if whatever it reads is not in the format of a number. So if it doesn't look like a number, it's going to throw an exception. That's a runtime exception. Those don't have to be declared. That's why IntelliJ is not complaining about them. File reader and buffered reader, particularly readline in it, declare that they're throwing exceptions. That's why it's forcing me to write these catch statements. I'm going to throw in number format exception, even though it's not explicitly telling me that's a possibility. So I'll throw this in here. And I'm going to say is not a number. And I'll give it the raw score. And of course, there's a few things I can do to make this code shorter. I'm just going for sort of understandability, I guess. Oh, it says raw score may have not been initialized. That's right, because it could have. It doesn't know that, well, if it breaks on either of these lines, it realizes, oh, maybe raw score never gets assigned anything, since that happens on line 23. If that's the case, I'm just going to give it a default value of an empty string up here to make it quiet. But it really shouldn't be a problem, because if we get a score and it can, the only way that we're going to get number format exception is if we read the file, but it can't really figure that out. The Java compiler can't really figure that out. So let me save. Again, let me go back. The goal down here is just, print out the score. Again, I just have 42 in this file, so let me come back here. Let me hit run. The score is 42. Yes, it works. Okay, great. Now let me just show you how a few other exceptions happen when I break things. So I come in here and just add some gibberish. Blah. Okay. Now if I run the file again, I should get, oh, look at all that junk is not a number. So that means an exception was thrown here on line 26 by parse int, and the exception passes these two catch blocks because they're not relevant, but then it's finally caught here on the number format exception handler, and then ta-da, it gets printed out here. Okay, now let me fix this. Let me go up here and change the score. So if I, again, just give it a bad file name so that file doesn't exist. If I go and run this, what's going to happen? Oh, was not found. So on line 19, an exception was thrown, a file not found exception, and it was caught here. So I get that was not found. And yeah, so that's IO reading just a single number from a file.